Welcome back to Digital Moneyball Academy and our series on Moneyball messaging. In our introduction, we talked mainly about some of the tactical challenges that firms face today. But in this session, we're going up a level or two and getting more strategic. We want to show you how we use messaging, not just as a means to grab attention and build your customer base, as important as those things are, but how we use messaging as a catalyst for overall transformation and change in the front end of a business. Now, if you read our materials, you know how we think a little differently about digital age challenges and solutions. And let me summarize our philosophy, at least at a really high level, for small to mid-sized businesses who today have several challenges that all kind of compound together. In the introduction, we talked about how digital has saturated today's customers and how grabbing and keeping attention today, whether you're in sales or marketing, is a much more difficult task. We talked about how COVID has changed the game of selling somewhat and how post-COVID, firms need to find new ways to access customers. But in the long term, success in the digital age is all about scale. The digital age is winner take all. And much like we've seen in countless other industries, big players are going to continue to get bigger and smaller players are going to get squeezed unless they act. Now, to act, you need digital. Digital is a big factor in producing scale today, but most firms' digital efforts fail. According to McKinsey, Boston Consulting Group, many others, less than 1 in 5 digital initiatives will be successful today. That's a terrible success rate. So to compete in the digital age, small to mid-sized businesses need to begin to adapt to this new game and to produce their own scale. Now, obviously, that makes sales and marketing super critical. The problem is that now most firms' sales and marketing are just terribly unprepared for a marketplace which has changed and continues to change really fast. Sensible triage tells us that transformation needs to start in the front end of the business, ASAP. Yes, firms eventually need to digitalize operations, service, product development, but right now that marketplace is getting flipped on its head and sales and marketing needs to adapt fast. I hope that you trace that step by step. So now let's talk a little more strategically about both marketing and sales and start to define our problem. Let's talk about marketing. And look, I'm just going to be brutally honest through some of this, starting here. Most firms in the B2B industrial space, they just don't do marketing. Not really, at least. They don't invest in it. Budgets are heavily weighted towards sales. Today's marketing, in addition, has been made way too ineffective with too many B2C ingredients making their way into the B2B lexicon. And we'll discuss that more in the next session. Suffice to say, most B2B marketing is 1 to 2 generations behind, and they're just not prepared to overcome today's saturation. Now, here's the thing. Marketing sets up digital in the front end, but many firms will never get to those powerful digital levers without marketing. Marketing normally drives these front-end digital levers, and as we discussed, marketing's foundations, like messaging, are often prerequisites to effective digital transformation. As we like to say, without that prerequisite fundamental, your digital marketing or your digital marketing automation, it's like playing a lousy guitar solo through a bigger amplifier. And that starts to hint at why 4 out of 5 of these digital efforts fail, by the way. But again, most B2B firms don't do marketing. And many haven't even started to move the slightest amount of SG&A to adapt to this new game. And that's a problem. That's a problem. Let's talk about sales. Look, great salespeople are worth their weight in gold. But again, just being honest, too many in the B2B space have lost their way. Amazingly, over 90% of salespeople have never read a sales book. Most don't fanatically prospect, as Jeb Blunt would say. They don't put in the work to find and develop new customers. Instead, too many have fallen into the trap of becoming order takers. They go on their daily milk runs. And the issue for them is that those relationships that they've built are becoming less important. And the value, the impacts of sales teams is increasingly derived not from existing relationships, but rather from delivering new business. So traditional sales teams need to develop a business development mindset. They need to be motivated, incented, directed, enabled, and supported to go out and find new business. Sales normally consumes the highest amount of SG&A, and you need to better put that money to work towards the thing that matters most. And today that's growth and scale. To continue my previous example, even if you can do effective digital marketing, unless you've got sales teams that are skilled and enabled and inspired and motivated to go act on those leads and actually develop the business, those investments are for naught. Your sales today needs to keep up with the grading curve, and other firms, rest assured, are using virtual selling, network effects, modern social platforms, and many other digital means. And those firms whose sales aren't sufficiently skilled in using technology are inevitably going to lose ground. They're just not properly equipped to fight the current war. So that's our problem statement. Sales and marketing both need a bit of a reboot, a good bit of transformation. Okay, so with all that in mind, let's now define the goals of transformation at a high level as we make our way through this. First, in general, again, we need an intense focus on the front end of the business on growth and delivering new customers to produce scale. That's paramount. Second, we need a general upskilling of sales for the digital age and a focus and competence towards new business development. Third, we need to shift some SG&A to marketing and start to build that function up. If you don't have marketing, it's hard to do digital on the front end, and it's therefore hard to produce scale. And fourth, speaking of digital, we need to lay the foundations for effective digital. It's an absolute requirement for keeping up today, and we need to avoid the issues that lead 4 out of 5 of those digital efforts to fail. Now, if that's not daunting enough, all of this requires a significant amount of change as well. Don't forget the people side of transformation. People, organizations are resistant to change. We talked before about change managing customers. Leaders need to change manage internally. Let's actually make that the 5th bullet. So these are 5 serious objectives that firms need to accomplish in pretty short order because things have changed and are changing fast. The question is, how the heck do you do this? Most businesses just don't know how to truly move the needle. You need to produce quick wins that spark, that ignite a virtuous cycle of change. And to do that, you need a critical mass of efforts, something that compels people to move. How do you motivate front-end personnel to adopt different behaviors, a different mindset, to acquire new skills, and to orient towards success in that new game? Most firms just don't know how to do this, at least at any level of significance. And we see mistakes all the time. Now, tell me if anything here sounds familiar. Many firms will look for the magic bullet. Some look at what big companies are doing, what the McKinseys of the world are recommending. There's all kinds of mistakes that we see. You probably recognize these as well. First, companies often implement the wrong levers that just don't produce any sort of material return on investment. They might hold some sort of big rah-rah sales event that doesn't do anything past 1 or 2 months out. It's common to see them try something like, hey, let's add a business developer to develop this market. They think additively or incrementally. They don't think multiplicative or exponential. These levers just never produce any sort of material return on investment. Some companies realize the need to change and the need to change fast, and they just go for it. They go for what we call the grand solution. So, for example, so many people are talking about digital transformation. Companies will try to do digital transformation. And you know what that means in most companies? It means something like, let's implement a CRM system. And talking about drinking the Kool-Aid. It's normally a terrible idea. Digital just doesn't work by itself, and something like that is certainly not going to move the needle in the front end of the business. Now, third, maybe companies do some of the right things, but they just can't seem to link the pieces together, and they never get to a critical mass. They do one little thing after another, and they never actually get the ignition spark that they need. People need to see and feel something big, something different, something that gets them on the bus. And that's the important piece that's required for change management. And it's important to remember some of the further challenges of small to mid-sized businesses as well. Normally, they can't afford the grand solutions of big consultants. They can't afford the wasted effort or investment. They rarely seek help because the McKinseys of the world are just a terrible fit for small to mid-sized businesses and have gone so far off track. And the truth is that most businesses perhaps just give up because everything they read and hear is so general that there's never any concrete action to be planned. So they say, hey, we're just going to keep on serving our customers. And that's admirable in so many ways. But in times of huge volatility, it's just a recipe for failure. Here's the solution. You need a set of the right levers. These levers are normally simple and pragmatic and achievable, but you need to link those levers together to get to a critical mass, something that's capable of inducing change and transformation. And then you need to manage those things programmatically together. I hope that makes sense, because we haven't found any other prescriptions that actually work for businesses. To create an impactful, noticeable set of initiatives capable of truly catalyzing change, we want to combine marketing and sales in a way where the parts all complement each other and work together across multiple channels, even multiplying together. And to accomplish that, we're going to use messaging as the central ingredient and the thread to stitch together several levers, the combination of which will be significant, big, compelling, capable of kickstarting growth, producing those quick wins, and instigating a virtuous cycle of change. Now, the Moneyball razor is a play out of our playbook. It's a combination of several strategic, simple, basic levers to drive what we call a truly integrated campaign. It includes sales prospecting, lead generation, sales enablement, and sometimes we actually bolt some other things onto the campaign. Now, we want the campaign to send a strong signal to all the people in the front end of the business that they need to do some new and different things. We want to give them a vision of what they're expected to do and something to get excited about, something that's inspirational, even motivational, something that prompts them to shift some behaviors. So let me give you an overview of our Moneyball razor. You've heard me talk about messaging. That's the central secret ingredient in many ways that focuses the campaign. Now we'll stitch it together with 3, sometimes 4 other key levers. The first is something we call virtual prospecting. In addition to lead generation, that new message is combined with sales prospecting techniques. We need to get sales effectively prospecting again and oriented to delivering new business. We also need them to become effective in that virtual space, at least for early cycle activity, to improve efficiency, reduce cost, and also to greatly increase the number and the frequency of customer meetings. The second is lead generation. We'll use that message to build connections at scale with customers via lead gen and other marketing efforts. We need to build or reboot the fundamentals of marketing, which we'll talk more about in the next session. The third is sales enablement. We need to enable and train sales with new tools, techniques, and assets centered around the message. We'll use software here to our advantage, and we'll normally help clients create overall custom playbooks and training for sales that encompass all of these elements in the campaign. We'll stitch these things together, and then we'll surround that by implementing program rigor to manage the campaign and track results. For the program, our Agile Strategy Framework provides a great way to manage integrated campaigns. You can check out our other course that shows how firms can use an Agile strategy to plan and then ferociously execute on a business strategy using a quarter-by-quarter Agile sprint approach. Now, here's the problem. Coming back to it, the reason that companies normally can't pull this off, even though the levers themselves are seemingly fairly simple, is a complex system problem. As systems become more complex, they become more interconnected, interdependent, and that increases the likelihood of failure. And that's why a programmatic approach is so very necessary. Let's say the odds of a firm being able to do any one of these pieces effectively might be a coin flip. Let's say it's 50%. But the odds of doing all of these pieces and linking them and planning and executing like you need to, each of these probabilities multiply together. It's a complex system problem. That's why most companies can't put the pieces together, and that's why they never get to a critical mass. Hope that makes sense, because that's how we use messaging as a catalyst for a broader set of change initiatives. These initial efforts then serve as a launching pad for continued transformation across the business. You can even use this play towards any specific growth lever, like developing a new market or new customers or launching new services. In any case, our advice is not to get caught up in the oversized, high-priced, inefficient, ineffective methods promoted by today's sellers, by most consultants, and used by larger companies. You need to be smarter, you need to be bolder, you need to sometimes even be downright scrappy. And that's why we want to show you how to use our playbook to play digital Moneyball. That's why we put together this course. I hope that all makes sense. If you have any other better ideas on how to transform a business's front end faster, better, more effectively, or more pragmatically, you let us know. But this is the prescription that you can use to to truly make a difference and move the needle in your business. We'll see you in the next session.